my name is Tuppence. I've got some alphabet shaker moulds. You're supposed to pour them this way round, but I'm going to be using these in a different way. This time I'm going to pour the back. I'm going to post a link to the video where I have already done that. I've got H, E, L and O, and I'm going to need to pour the L twice because I want to spell the word hello. I'm going to be using this craft UV resin to do that. I'm not adding any colour or any inclusions, although I do have something in this one, so let's get that out. I'm just going to create these letters entirely clear. So I'm going to start to fill these up, and I will pour them in a couple of layers, curing them in between. I'm using a dual-sided resin lamp, so I'll pop them under there for about 3 minutes each time. Okay, now that I've got those filled up, I'm going to take my stick and just run that around the inside, try and get rid of any bubbles, and especially the ones that might like to cling along the edges. I've still got a few bubbles in there, so I'm going to take the heat gun, I'm going to warm up that resin, and hopefully that will make it a little bit more liquid. Those bubbles can rise up to the surface and pop. I'm just going to give that another helping hand with the stick. I want these to be as clear as possible. Okay, almost done. I can still see a few bubbles, so I'm just going to give this another blast with a heat gun, and then I'll pop this under the lamp to cure. I'm going to repeat the process, and this is the second and final layer. I'm going to make sure that I have this filled to the very top of the mould, as I need the full depth for what I'm planning. I used the same process to create another word that I'm going to need for this, and that is the word there. So I've got hello and there. And you can see that they are nice and clear, although as I'm demoulding them you might notice they are a little bit frosted, and that's because the mould is slightly matte. I am using the wrong side of the moulds, don't forget. Okay, so I'm going to be placing these into this big oval tray. So I've already got the hello in place, and now I can add my other word so that I can make sure that everything fits and that the spacing works out. Now I've got a little bit of overspill on some of these, so I just need to make sure that I clean them up before I set them in, but I've got a few other bits to do before that. If I'm centering a word or placing it in, I need to find the middle letter, and in the case of the word there, the middle letter is the E. So I'm going to make sure that that lines up to the middle of the tray, and then I can arrange the other letters around it. I'm working backwards because I want this to be seen the right way round from the other side of the tray. So I just need to make sure that I've got everything lined up and spaced evenly so that I can get a good idea of what this is going to look like. And I think that looks pretty good. I'm happy with the way that that is going to go. Now before I set those in place, I want to fill just the outer edge in a different colour, and I'm only going to fill that up level with that surface. The letters need to be set into a clear layer. So let me go mix up my resin. Alright, I have mixed up a little bit of resin ready to start to fill the outside edge of this mould. This is craft resin that I'm using, and I have got 80 millilitres here, and I'm going to add some of this black resin dye. This is from Let's Resin, and it's a transparent black. Now I definitely have more than I need in this cup. I know how much the whole mould is going to take, that is 255 millilitres, but I don't know how much just that outer edge is going to take. I've mixed up more than I need because I do have a side project that I'm doing. So I'm just going to make sure I mix all of this black in, and then I'm going to add some Dazzling Diamonds holographic glitter. Okay, that's mixed, the streaks are gone. But I can still see quite a lot of the stick underneath that resin, so I don't think the colour is deep enough. I'm going to add a few more drops, about 3 or 4, and then I'll see how that goes. I'm only going to be putting a very small amount of this resin around the outside, so although it looks pretty black in the pot, that's just because there's an awful lot in there. It's not going to be that much around the outside. I'm not too worried if it isn't going to be too dark, because I'm going to be backing this with several layers, one of which will be an opaque black. But that looks a bit better. I can't see the stick underneath there. So now I'm going to put the glitter in. And you don't need a lot of this, so just... I was trying to restrict myself to 1 scoop, but I always add slightly more. I can never just do the 1 scoop. Alright, let's get that mixed in. And I'm hoping that this is just going to give this a hint of glitter, almost like stars. Right, that looks pretty good. So now I need to very carefully put this just around the outside of the mould and fill up that edge, trying not to get it onto that surface. If I do get it on the top surface, I'm just going to have to clean it up. I have to say this is looking almost navy blue in this cup rather than black, but that will do, that's fine. And you can see it does look very blue as I'm pouring this into the mould. Right, so I'm going to very carefully fill this up. Although I'm going to speed this up for you, otherwise it's going to be pretty boring for you to watch. You need a pretty steady hand for this, and that's not something I have at the best of times, but I think I'm doing okay. Just one drop a minute ago. Alright, so that is now partially filled. I'm going to go around the edge with the micro brush stick just into those right angles to make sure that there are no bubbles in there. Make sure I go around twice, and then I can top that up level with the surface. So I'm just going to do it slowly. I've sped this up as I say, but I'm waiting for the resin to level out so that I don't over pour this. And once that is filled up and level, I'm going to pop this in the G3 and cure that for 45 minutes. Okay, that's been curing for 45 minutes at 140 so that that outer edge is now tacky. That means that I can put this clear layer on the top without any worry that the colours are going to mix. So I want to put a thin layer down, enough to cover the whole surface without any holes in it. And this is to fix in my letters, but I do need them just to be held in place. I don't want this clear layer to fill up to the same level as the letters. They need to stick out above the top of it. Okay, I'm going to let that be enough for a minute and we'll see how that goes. So it is a little bit thick. I didn't actually heat this resin up very much. So actually, let me lay that flat because that edge is still a little bit soft. I tilt the whole tray, I can actually get that all the way to the edges. And make sure that this is nice and level. And as I say, there are going to be a couple of other layers after this. All right. That's looking pretty good. I do have quite a few bubbles in there, so I'm just going to use my heat gun to warm this up and pop those. Make sure I give this every chance to be nice and clear. And now I can start to lay down my letters. So for the word hello, I've got an L that will be the center letter. So I'm going to put that roughly in the center line. Just make sure that that is pushed down and is touching the bottom of the mould. And that way I'm hoping that this is going to stay in place and it's not going to move around as this cures. And now I'm going to put the E on the other side. Just try and space that, get that lined up and level. And then the H. If you always start with your middle letter in the middle, you tend to get it lined up perfectly in whatever project you are doing. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit, pop some music on and just lay down all my letters. Okay, so I think that's all my letters, and as you can see I've put them in back to front because I do want these to be visible from the other side. So now I just need to leave this to set and hopefully they'll stay in place. Okay, that's all cured now and the letters have stayed pretty much where I want. So I need my next layer, and I've got 60 mils of craft resin, and I'm going to add some of this black mica powder. This is Noir from Arteza, and I want to make this black and opaque. So I'm going to put a decent amount into this. I'll do 3 scoops and then I'm going to mix that in. That's all mixed in now, and that is one solid colour, although it probably has a few bubbles in there, so I'm going to leave it just for a minute. And then I'm going to use a spoon to drop some colour into the centre hole of the O and the R. This black is literally going to go only around the outside of these letters, so I want this layer not to come up above the surface of them. I'm highlighting all of the letters, so just drop that colour into the centres and bring it up almost level with the top, not quite. The letters are not at the same height as the top of the mould, so I will have to add another layer on there as well. But as I say, I only want the black to go around the outside. So I'm going to put this in pretty carefully. Make sure that none of this actually covers over the top of the letters. Okay, that is all cured now, and you can see through my letters. Now, because I forgot to put the glitter into my resin, I had to pour it into the mould and add it. So there's a little bit of glitter on top of my letters, which I don't want. It is still loose, so I'm removing that using a little bit of packing tape, sticking that onto the letters and picking up any of that loose glitter and getting rid of it. Okay, that's nice and clean now, and now I need to add my next layer to bring this up to the top of the level of the mould. Now, my idea is to keep these letters nice and clear so they act as windows. I'm trying to make a light box. Now, I still don't know if this is going to work. I'm winging it as I go along, but I do know that I want these to be clear so that any light I put behind there is going to shine through. So I have mixed up just enough resin, I hope, to cover this and bring this up to the same level as the top of the mould. So I'm just going to dump the contents of the cup in there and spread that out. Make sure it is all coated, and it looks like I made a pretty good guess. Get everything out of there. Alright, so just level that out a little bit, and I'm going to give this a quick heat with my heat gun just to remove any bubbles, and then this is going to go back into the G3 to cure, and I'll be back when I'm ready to demould. That's all cured now. I can get this out of the mould. Okay, and that looks pretty good to me. I can see that I have got a couple of bubbles on some of the letters. I don't know if you can see that. So I'll deal with those in a little bit, but that looks really good. Now that I've got this mould empty, I need to make another tray. So I'm going to go ahead and mix up some more resin. Right, I'm going to add a little bit more black mica to my resin, and I've got 260 mils of craft resin mixed up. This tray takes 255 mils in total. So I'm going to mix that into my resin, and then I'm going to add some of the glitter, and the glitter I'm adding is some laser powder, and I'm hoping that that is actually going to settle on the bottom of the mould so that I get this really sparkly interior to my tray. This is going to be the inside of the Lightbox. I'm going to lay a small amount down into the bottom of the mould, then I'm going to take my micro brush and I'm going to run that around the edges, making sure that there are no bubbles trapped in those right angles. Then I can top it up with the rest of the resin, making sure that I empty everything out of the cup, and I have just the right amount to fill up this mould. So you can see a lot of that glitter is all the way through this resin at the moment, but hopefully it will sink. It has done in the past, and I'm banking on that happening now. So I've just sprayed a little bit of alcohol to pop the bubbles. I'm going to wait for that to evaporate before I pop this into the G3 and cure it. So that's all cured now, and I'm loving that pattern on the back. And I'm hoping that does mean that some of it has sunk through to the bottom and it isn't all risen up to the surface and is on the back. So let me just pull this out. Okay, yep, I do have quite a bit on there. I really like that effect. It looks like crazy paving. Not what I was planning on, but there you go. Okay, so the plan is to put these together. I'm not sure how I'm going to fix them, and I noticed that this second tray is a little bit warped, so it's a little bit curved. I don't want to permanently affix them because I want to put lights inside, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to change those in and out in case they bulbs go or whatever happens. If I'd have thought about it a little bit more, I probably would have put my letters the other way round so that they would have been the right way up this way, and then I'd have had a much deeper central section. Those two edges would have been easy to join together, but I didn't, so I'm going to make this work. Right, so I noticed on this layer that I've got several bubbles and they've caused pits on the front, so it's obviously happened when I laid down my letters into that first resin layer. Now I need to solve that by adding a thin layer of resin over the top. So I've mixed up a little bit more of the craft resin. I'm going to pour some in there, and then I can tilt this, make sure it goes all the way to the edges and gives me a nice smooth even layer. And I don't want to fill this all the way up. So now I'm going to take a microbrush stick and I'm going to weed out those bubbles that are stuck in those holes. Make sure that they're all filled of the resin, and then hopefully they should disappear. And once I've done that, I'll pop this in the G3, and then I can hopefully figure out how I'm going to put all of this together and fit the lights inside. Okay, that is cured. Now when I put this on top, it really does look very dark in there. I did try a few lights in there, it's just not shiny enough. I didn't get enough of that laser powder onto the bottom, and it's just not reflective enough. I'm going to add some of this glittery silver vinyl on the inside, and hopefully that will be enough. When I put this back on top, you can see, well, obviously it's touching the back, but it is much shinier, much brighter. You get a lot more contrast. So I'm just going to cut a piece big enough, and then I can lay that in the tray and just use my fingernails, my thumbnails to push into the edges of that tray and create a template. Just create a mark so that I know where to cut this. And then I can stick it down onto the middle of that tray, and this is going to give me a much brighter, shinier surface, and the lights should be able to reflect off this and shine through my letters much better. So I need to fix the lights in place, and I don't want to put them in here permanently in case anything goes wrong. So I'm going to use a hot glue gun as opposed to some UV resin. That way, if I need to change out batteries or if I need to replace the lights for any reason, I can. Okay, so this is going to go on top. Now I've fit in 2 strings of lights because one just wasn't enough, and I'm going to temporarily fix this together. If I'd thought about it, I might have put some magnets or something in there so that I can take this apart, but I didn't. So I'm going to stick this with a little bit of sellotape. That way I can take it apart, because in future I think I might look for one of those string of lights, the LED lights that come on the tape strip, the adhesive tape strip. I think that will probably light this up better. But for now, I'm going to hold that together with some sticky tape in a couple of places just to stop it from moving around. And then I can go around the outside with a little strip of black vinyl. That will not only make it look better, but it will help to block out the light that is caused by the gaps because of that second tray bowing when it cured. Okay, once I've taped it round, I've just got a little bit over the edge at the back, so I'm taking that off with a craft knife, and here it is. I'm going to turn down the lights and you can see what it looks like. I think it does work. Now I can see the little lights along the bottom here, so I don't know how different that will be with one of the tape lights, but I could have made that a little darker, but for a prototype I think that works. I certainly need to find a better way of joining it together, even if it is temporarily. But yeah, I really like this, and I hope that you've liked this too. If you have, please give me a thumbs up, comment, share, subscribe. You can scan the QR code on the screen with your phone, or you can click the subscribe button below the video. You'll also find the description box with links to anything that I'm using. I'm going to post some photos in the meantime. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you come back and find out what I'm going to make next time. Take care. Bye.